the heritage that we have received. And we pray that you'd make us responsible in protecting that heritage. We thank you for this time together, for each person here. We thank you for the fellowship, for the food, for all of your goodness now. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you. All right, everybody stand up, turn around. There's a 10-foot flag in the back. Loud and proud, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for coming out and braving an inch and a half of snow here. It's awesome to see how many beautiful Republican faces in one spot. We'd like to thank everybody that was involved in putting this together. It takes a lot of people and a lot of good time. Mostly my wife and her paperwork is second to none. You know, we had pretty good time since November, but that's what this is about. The Vermont Red is not just a slogan. It's something that we're going to have to live so we can get the rest of our state back where it belongs. But organizing towns, organizing select boards, school boards, any of those functions, there's a lot of opportunity out there that you don't really know until you get involved in something like this. You just don't realize you have the opportunity to have the backing of a large group of people, and that's what will make people run for office. Yourself.
So, one of the goals of Vermont Red is to be able to take Vermont, especially Southern Vermont since we're down here, and get people to run for office. So there's no blank slates anymore. No blank slates in the House, nothing in the Senate, get people running. We have a sign up over by the door. It's just a sign up if you think you might want to run for an office or you might want to organize your town. Sign up over there and we can just kind of help you get in touch with you. There's also some stuff that you can do that on the Vermont State GOP website.
On that table over there also is some 50-50 raffle tickets. There's the tickets for these 3 flags over here. Other than that, yes, that's why she's a brain in the operation. We have recently put forth a Facebook group that is Southern Vermont Chairs. So it's basically from, it doesn't have to be, but the kind of line is Proctor and down trying to get everybody together. One of the big problems that we see is the people don't know each other. Windsor County, there's 17, I believe, organized towns in Windsor County. I probably know 6 or 7 of the chairs. If we can get everybody together so that all 50 actually could identify each other by face or name, that's where we come up with senators and House seats. That's, I think it's going to be a huge help to the party. And it's not political, it's all on the social side of it, which, it doesn't interfere with any of the stuff that the GOP is doing other than getting a supported group that can actually help. And we had our first meeting 2 weeks ago, on that really nasty ice storm day. We had 14 people show up in Manchester. Hopefully it gets bigger from there. Anybody interested in, if you didn't get an email from us, check your spam. Get a hold of us and we'll make sure that you're on the next round.
All right, so our agenda for today is we're going to do 2 different sessions. So in the first session, we're going to go through speakers. We're going to take a quick break after that. So we have a 50-50 drawn. The first prize is going to be half a pot. Second prize is maple syrup donated by Mark Koster. And then the third prize is a 2024 RNC swag bag donated by Tammy Lincoln, right? Greg's got half. And then we have the flag raffles also. That's what we're drawing in there. But those flags over there, those are up for raffle. So once that second session's done, we'll do that raffle, we'll close it. The remainder of the time will be kind of mingling around here until 4. The restaurant downstairs is open for dinner.
Okay, first up, Mr. Greg Thayer, Vermonters from Vermont. And former Lieutenant Governor candidate.
How's everybody doing? Good. The lucky guy gets to speak first. So, I hope you're with me because we're not. This is a great day. I want to give it up for Kelly and Roy Spalding. And we know a lot goes into this. And you've got an Irishman around here with a camera, so I know this. So thank you all for coming. I'm Greg Thayer from Vermont, and I've been involved in private politics for probably over 30 years, and I love making a public policy, and I love meeting and talking to people yourself. Tammy and I were very humble over the last couple of years, being out on the campaign trail, meeting, talking, and listening to your fears and concerns, and your expectations of government, and less government, limited government, low taxes, leave our property, private property rights alone, stuff like that, free speech. We really appreciate everything you all do. You're all here, and that's really important. So that tells me that you're concerned as well, and that's paramount in my heart. So thank you. I've probably been talked to today 3 or 4 times about my former primary candidate, campaign candidate that I ran against, the current lieutenant governor. And I just want to say that John and I were working together, and I had him on my show in Rutland. We sat at events together, and I'm very disappointed in his words the other day in appearing at that event. They hate Trump, and I think we got to get along, but I think it really starts up here at the top, comes down. And so I just, I don't want to talk about it all day, and I want us to move on because we've got a lot of things to do. And we've got the minority leader, Scott Beck, in the House. He's going to speak, and he's doing a great job. Terry Williams this year. There's some House legislators here. They're doing a great job for us. They're working hard for us, and they're being heard. And now the governor has an effective veto pen. He knows what's going on. He's working hard. We're all working hard, and we're being heard this year. So I just want to ask everybody here that ran for public office, either in November or even in August of 24, or you ran for your local school board or select board, could you please rise? Stay involved, engaged, and like Roy, we need to expand on this. We need to expand on this, and the seats we won with the leadership from our state GOP with Paul Page, all in the House and some. There's Paul Page, so he's doing his work. We're trying to get this done, but we need you. Paul can't do it without us. From the county chairs to the county chairs to the town and county committees, and it has to be a cooperative effort. And the whole thing is that it's not about Greg Thayer, it's not about you folks as individuals, it's collectively about us, we the people. Those are the premises of my campaign, we the people, it's about the people, and doing the right things for them. We know the Democrats are dark, and we know that we are the light, and we follow the light. So, I just want to keep us all positive and moving forward. This past Wednesday, my Vermont Initiative program held an event in Montpelier, in the Capitol, on parents' rights and education. We had great speakers. A couple of those speakers are here today, and I appreciate them being there. I appreciate them being here and communicating to you everything that's going on. You know, parents' rights, it's a fundamental right. And the Constitution is very clear that parents have a right to the upbringing and care and education of their children. It's codified not just in statute, it's also in case law, in kind of the Supreme Court rulings, and it's in the Vermont state laws too. And we all need to ask those questions. The big thing is getting out to our school boards. The school boards are filled with so much hate that we, the people, need to get out there. I wrote a resolution on parents' rights. It was vetted by a national organization, Parental Rights Foundation in DC, Percival, I'm going to say it down there outside of DC. And I really encourage us, comments are on the front table, and encourage you really to look at that and to go to your school board. Ask your school board to take this up. I was, this morning the TV went on in the background as Tammy and I were getting ready, and there was an article on the Newsmax from Colorado, 4 different initiatives that are taking parents' rights away. That's concerning, and you know what? Sorry to say, ladies, sorry, that shit's gonna come here if we do not stand up and stop it. So please, rise up, you're here, you're obviously concerned. So some of the other initiatives that I'm working on, because after the campaign I lost, again, I met a lot of great people, and Tammy and I were humbled, but I'm still doing my thing. I'm still out there doing stuff. I do my weekly TV show. I do a TV show down here, because they asked me to come down and do one here in Ludlow at People Valley, and People Valley cameras, I think they're here. So we need people to do things like that in the right letters, but we need to support our legislators. Terry Williams, Leader Beck, VL, Tom, and Kevin. Kevin, where are you? Where's Kevin? There he is. You know, we need to support these guys and gals up there that are carrying our water, carrying our cross, and doing the right things. You know, another initiative that I'm working on is mental health. I believe the Democrats have ruined their state because of the mental health issue. I also believe in making Vermont affordable through a consumption tax program that I've been working with people from my county, including Terry Williams and Neil Robinson, I believe, is here. There's some other people. And, you know, this plan takes away everything, all taxes away, property tax, income, payroll tax, the new payroll tax that they just adopted when they had the super duper majority. And it relies on one tax. And it's possible. I know that right now the governor's talking about the foundation formula. And I know the House is doing some different things. The Democrat leadership in the House is doing some crazy things. But I think we need to be at the table. I think we need to hear it all. But I really think that tax captures everything, all the illegal money out there. You know, it's a whole different discussion getting into that. But my closing comments is everybody here, don't just let this sit. Do not just let it sit here. Please, motivate, you're here. Activate, and we need to educate. Educate, motivate, activate. That's the premise of the Vermont Initiative. And you know, we're doing a lot of things. We started in 2018. We're doing a lot of stuff. And it's for the people. And I talk to people up and down the state all the time. So I love you all. God bless you all. Kelly Martin again, my hat. Thank you all for coming. Speaker. So, all the way from St. Johnsbury, Vermont, ladies and gentlemen, join me in giving it up for the minority leader of the Vermont State Senate, Scott Beck.
Thank you, Greg. I kind of felt like I might have been a prize fighter there for a second. Thank you for being here, Roy. Thank you for the invitation. It's beautiful down here, beautiful setting. I really enjoyed the drive, even though it was a little snowy. But I appreciate this crowd this day. This is a tremendous amount of energy in a really important county. And I don't like to make requests. But I have one request. Everybody assembled here. Could you guys get me one Republican senator from this county, please? And I know you tried hard last election, we almost made it, but we got to push a little bit harder. Just one. 2 would be great. 3, I'll put buying drinks here next year. And I just want to start with that because I just want to acknowledge the tremendous success we had in the last election to break the supermajority. Shattered. I mean, we didn't just keep over the line. We won it by a lot. And so that's fantastic. And we celebrated that in a few locations already since the election. And I feel a little bit of that celebration here this afternoon. But we've got to take the next step. Governor Scott has done a phenomenal job of hanging on. And he's, as Greg mentioned, he's there with his veto pen. And it actually means something right now, which is a tremendous advantage. But Governor Scott's in his fifth term. And I don't know if he'll come again or after that. But the possibility is that it wouldn't be my choice, but the next governor could be a Democrat. The only way to protect ourselves from what a Democratic governor and a Democratic legislature is to get a majority in the legislature. We really need to be pushing towards that. We are only 2 away in the Senate from it being even, John Rogers. And the House, I think they're maybe 20. That's how much we gained in the last election for the most part. So this is all doable with energy and focus and resources. And here's the most important part. Good candidates. Candidates that can win. Okay? If you know people, I'll just speak for the Senate, that's the crowd that I try to shepherd. If you know people that you know would be good candidates for the Vermont Senate and want to run down this county or any other county, please get in touch with me. We would love to speak with them and to talk with them about the possibilities. Because it all, in the legislature, it all comes down to the majority. It really does. If you have it, you can do a lot of things. And if you don't have it, you're playing defense. Right now, we are in the minority. And there's a lot of things that haven't happened yet. And a lot of you are probably wanting to happen. Repeal of the Big East thing, repeal of the Global Warming Solutions, private right of action, repeal of the California EV mandate. We're 2 votes away. We'll get our chance. They'll eventually have to run a bill out there that we can attach an amendment to. It's not secret, it'll be the budget. So we'll get our chance, and we'll get a chance to put them on the record exactly whether they are for the repeal of the Clean Heat Standard, whether they are for the repeal of the Global Warming Solutions Act, or any of this other damage that's been done over the last 2 to 4 years. So we get our chance, but if we were a majority, we would have already taken that shot and would have been successful. So getting to a majority is really, really important. Okay, enough about that. Majority. 1 person in Windsor County. Senator. Love to see it. Let me just talk about a little bit what's going on down in Montpelier right now. There's probably 2 things that are taking up most of the oxygen, and I just want to speak to both of them. One is the Budget Adjustment Act, or what some people call the BAA. Okay? I just want to let everybody know what's going on here. Okay? Usually the Budget Adjustment Act is just a mid-year tune-up of the budget just to make sure all the accounts are full and the money moves where it's supposed to be. This year, based on an agreement made last year, when the Democrats were supermajority, the motel program that came out of COVID ended on April 1st. That was agreed upon between the governor and that supermajority. And then we were going to transition back to our traditional seasonal motel program that we have done in Vermont for many, many decades. It costs about $5 million a year. We're now spending $45 million on the GA program. The majority party wanted to extend that program another 3 months build it into the next budget, continue to operate that program that costs $45 million a year and places people in an isolated setting in a hotel room. The governor did not want to extend it at all. The governor actually extended his hand and said, I will do it for 3 months for only the most vulnerable Vermonters. Democrats, no hand. It's all or nothing out there. The governor said, well, it will be nothing, I guess. And he did an executive order to put in place what should have been negotiated. And that's what's going on. This is what everybody needs to understand. Democrats agreed for no benefits, then they want everything. The governor extended his hand for 3 months for a vulnerable class. That's what he's saying right now. So that, I just want to get that out there. The other thing I want to talk about briefly, give me the book that you need to go, I'm sure I'll hold it up here, is education. That's what's really taking up a lot of oxygen right now in Montpelier. The House just passed out their version of the budget. I won't go into it in detail, but Montpelier and Kevin really want to mention it. Here's the big picture. We really need, all of your help to get the word out so that Vermont can have a conversation and figure this thing out. Here's what's going on. Vermont has gone from 110,000 students to 83,000 students. And we'll be lucky if we bought it out of 7. 5,000, birth rate of 5,000 a year, might get you 70 if you're lucky. Okay? So we went from 110 to 70. We have an infrastructure and we have an education workforce that is really reflecting of 110. So what we're trying to get to, and we have a funding formula that is not transparent, is not understandable, and there's no very little accountability between voters and their taxpayers. Okay. What we're trying to get to here is we're trying to move the system so that we have local elementary schools, central middle schools, and regional high schools. Okay. I don't know if that means that a single school in the state of Vermont needs to close, but I think in a lot of cases we need to really closely look at what grades those schools operate. Do we need local middle schools? We have a lot of those right now. Should we have central middle schools? Let those 6, 7, 8 people get to a bigger cohort of kids and retain the elementary schools. It's the same conversation at the high school level. Okay, do we want to run really small high schools, or do we want the high schools to be in a bigger setting? I don't know if the number is 250 or 300 or 450. People can figure that out. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get to a system where there are local elementary schools, central middle schools, and regional high schools. And to leave the decision of what's local and what's central and what's regional to Vermont, and not have those decisions made in Montpelier. Okay? That's what's happening on the government side. That's the conversation. On the funding side, we're trying to move from a statewide system where Vermonters make the spending decision, and Vermont government has to take a bill no matter what, to a system where Vermont gives the money to the local school districts. They use the money how they think it should be used, and with an option to spend even more on their own grants if they want to. Okay? If we did what the governor proposed, or even what the House proposed, that system, which was called a foundational system, would be by far, nothing else even comes close, would be the most generous foundation education system, money system in the entire country. This is not we're shorting kids, or we're taking out on kids, or we're blowing out budgets and it's going to damage kids. It would still be very generous, but there would be accountability, there would be transparency, there would be simplicity, and if the district wanted to spend more, they can do that. It would be on their own rails, but they can do that. And those are the two big conversations that are going on in Montpelier. Let me circle back to what's most important, okay? Majority, okay? If we want to take this to the next step, if we want to be driving the bus, if we want want to be the ones that are calling the shots, then we need to achieve a majority, right? I hope that Windsor County can do its part, and we've got to try and get one. Just one. We'll get one in Chittenden Southeast. We'll get one in Washington. And then we'll have the majority, and we'll really be able to say what goes on in the city. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. If anybody would like to ask any questions or whatever, thank you.
Mr. Rob Rover, journalist, former Sound Institute, a bio here that would take me 10 minutes to read through. That's all I have.
Thank you, everybody. This is great to see such a huge room full of Republicans. And I think it's emblematic of the success that we had in the last election. So it's really quite remarkable. Everybody likes to think that we had a huge red wave last time. We really didn't as a nation. There were somewhere between 5,500 and 6,000 legislative races that took place across the country in November 2024. Republicans picked up out of 6,000, 57 seats. It's a very small percentage. 24 of those 57 seats happened right. That's pretty incredible. That's pretty incredible for what is considered the burning blue state. But we did it. And there were a lot of things that came together that allowed this to happen. And I want to make sure that everybody has a good picture in their mind of the full elephant of what took place. We had the issues on our side in 2024. The Democrats really painted themselves into a box on some very unpopular issues, particularly property taxes and climate issues, particularly the clean heat standard. They were locked into a box. They were able to tie the property tax increase that hit, that 14% statewide property tax that hit in July, right going into the campaign season, and we had been counting them on the clean heat standard for over a year. Everybody knew that that was going to cost them $1, $2, $4 more per gallon on their own heating fuel. And a big part of that is communication. Because the fuel dealers did a great job. They communicated 80% of the people in this state who eat with oil or propane. They communicated with them directly. They were their customers. Those kinds of communication avenues are really critical when we're talking about these issues. So we had the issues on our side. We had more candidates running than we have had in the past. In my opinion, we still didn't have enough. If we had more candidates running, we would have picked up more seats than we did. But still, even so, we had more candidates running. This time, I hope we can expand that number so that every race is contested. I know that might be a lot, but that's what we should be shooting for. Every race being contested. And last time, we had a lot of candidates get in at the last minute. Some of them won. A good number of them won. We were either write-in candidates or were appointed after nobody had run in the primary. Glad it happened. I'm glad it worked out in some cases, but we need to get candidates to commit earlier so they can start meeting people, start fundraising, doing everything that they need to do to have a successful campaign. A big reason why we did so well in the last election is we had a coordinated group of large dollar donors, mostly in the Burlington area, that was around the state, were donating heavily, particularly in Senate races, where we were able to pick up 6 seats. And they made sure that those very expensive Senate races now are getting to be very expensive. You need 20, 30, if you're in a 3-member district like this, you need $50,000 to run those races. And we had people who were willing to invest the kind of money in candidates that allow them to run real, credible, professional campaigns. That was a really important thing. The Right to Vermont Act, which I worked with Ludlow, I think we did a really important thing for starting in legislative session in a social media campaign calling out the Democrats for their voting records. How did they vote on the clean heat standard? How did they vote on the property taxes? How did they vote on the new payroll tax that they put into place? How did they vote on the DMV fees? And we had their pictures up there, their districts, they were running a list of all of those, a list of everyone, all the votes that they had cast. And I know this was an important aspect of this because while those large dollar donors were investing in Senate races, that PAC was the only one that I saw that was really investing heavily in House races. And we targeted 20 and we knocked off 14. And then the message that we had was, this is why Vermont is unaffordable, vote them out. It was a very simple message, and that's what we need to continue doing now. We hold them to account. This is why Vermont is unaffordable, vote them out. We need to make the case that the Democrats who are currently in power right now, running the show, as Scott Beck said, they're still the ones in control. They need to be fired and replaced with common sense Republicans who are fiscally responsible and in touch with people and the voters of the state. Another important element that we had is we had a prominent, lifelong Democrat switch parties and run for statewide office as a Republican. And that was reinforcing the message that Democrats in Montpelier had lost touch, were out of control, while at the same time giving Democratic voters an example to follow, permission to leave their party and switch to the Republican Party as voters as well as the candidate. And of course, a big one was Governor Scott, who has in the past not played a very active role in the campaigns of the House and Senate, decided that this was the year he was going to put his political capital and his financial capital in his campaign to work. And he went out and campaigned, and that was a huge factor as well. So all of these things were critical to our success in 2024, and we need them all of those cylinders to be firing again in 2026 if we want to hold the seats we just picked up, and more importantly, that we want to win. That we want to win a majority in the Senate, and we want to get, if not a majority in the House, darn close so we can get a majority in 2028. And it's very doable. It is very doable. But we need to have our candidates who are well funded. We need them running on a unified message. And we need the folks in this room to carry that message constantly. It's a constant battle to get the message out. We do not have Vermont Bigger on our side. We do not have BPR on our side. We don't have 7 Days on our side, the Rockland Herald, the Times Argus, except for the Caledonian Record. Our own media. We have to. We have Twitter. We have Facebook. We have Rumble. We have Instagram. We have all of these avenues that we need to get our message out. And we need to do it. If we have, whenever we're in a room with a bunch of people standing in line at the grocery store, we need to be bringing up these issues, the issues that are important to us. Because I do want to bring up a reality that I think 2026 is going to be a more difficult year for Republicans than 2024. We can't sit back on our laurels and say, yeah, we cruised in 2024, we're going to cruise again in 2026. Because I think that Donald Trump is going to be on the ballot even more so in 2026 because it's going to be his agenda on the ballot rather than the person. And whether we like it or not, the 30% of Vermonters who voted for Donald Trump are loyal, and they're going to come out and they're going to vote. But the 70% of Vermonters who voted for Kamala Harris are fired up. I don't know if you saw that event that they had on the State House just the other day. It was big. They are out for blood. And Donald Trump isn't going to be on the ballot. They're going to take it out on the Republicans who are. So our job is to not make this election be about federal policy or personalities. We need to make sure that we frame this election in terms of local issues, Vermont issues, issues that got us into office in 2024. And those are property taxes and climate change issues that all affect the affordability of the state. State House, they just passed in the House an education finance reform that does not reduce property taxes. In fact, the chair of the Ways and Means Committee that wrote the bill said it spends, I want to get the quote right, I'm probably going to get it a little wrong, approximately the same that we're spending now, except a little more. Is that what we voted for last November? No. We voted for property tax relief. So that's up to us to say, hey, you're not doing what we elected you to do. And if you're not doing what we elected you to do, you need to be fired and replaced by somebody who will. The clean heat standard, we all went into this session thinking, okay, early in January, they're going to bring this up to a vote and they're going to repeal it because obviously nobody wants it, it's a terrible program, we can't afford it. They've been hiding it. Where's Terry Williams? Terry Williams, Terry brought it out, he actually pulled a parliamentary move. His committee of the bill and bring it to the floor for a vote, so we got him on the record. 17-13, party line vote. They voted not to repeal the clean heat standard, or even give it a chance to repeal. I mean, it's a little technical, but you know what was behind that. And I was talking to Scott Beck before we started speaking here, and he tells me that there's going to be a lot more votes like that we're going to be able to hold them on, hold their feet to the fire, and hold up their records for the voters. You know, beyond the clean heat standard, though, it's the Global Warming Solutions Act, it's really the root problem that we have. And the lawsuit provision is in that bill, or in that law, I should say, is a real opportunity for us to go after them. Because if they're not going to implement the clean heat standard, if they're not going to implement the Cap and Invest program, which is essentially a tax on gasoline and diesel, if they're not going to actually implement the policies necessary to meet their signature program, well, then they ought to repeal the mandates as well. That's just common sense, and that's just good governance at the moment to do it. And that's where we paint them into a box. And I think we have an opportunity to go after their base with this too. If you remember when Peter Shumlin, they've been pushing single-payer health care for 3 years, that was their heart and soul policy. And then he said, well, we just can't do it, it's too expensive, so we'll shunt it to the side. It's totally demoralized in 2014, and picked up about 1,000 seats. So if we can show their base voters that they can totally abandon the climate change agenda because it's too expensive and totally impractical, I think we have an opportunity to demoralize their base on that issue as well. But you know, all of this takes work. We need to recruit the candidates, and we need to recruit them early. We need to raise the money to ensure that they can run competitive campaigns. We need to drive the messaging to ensure we're fighting battles on our issues. Issues of our issues and not theirs. And we need to be reminding our friends and neighbors every day that the Democrats in charge of Montpelier are not listening to us, are not providing solutions. They need to be fired, and they need to be replaced by Republicans who get it. I know you're going to do it. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Rob. Next up, Tom Carroll from Chester.
About 2 weeks into the session, I got where I was staying in the evening, and I was kind of prepared to have a quiet night reading legislation to make myself leave. And I started getting texts and an email saying, I saw what you said in the paper, thank you for saying that. I'm like, what I was talking about. I had no idea. And so I started looking online. And it turned out that I had a short exchange with a senator who was in my committee room and interrupted me. Not the other way around, for those of you that read the article. But we had this brief exchange, and I made a comment about my being elected because of what I did in the previous session. And I discovered, again, even though I'd been told so, that the cameras are always rolling up there. And none of this turned out, they went out before newspapers, and none of them had been in the room at the time, they were just watching on the computer. Watching the live stream, which are all welcome to do. But as a reminder, and this is what I want to remind you of, and I know we talked about some political issues, Scott Beck, government, I'm just going to say ditto, because you know what the issues are. I need to talk to you about what you need to do if we're going to take the next election and be more effective. Is there any kids in the room? I see cameras running, so yes. Cover your ears. If you want to turn Vermont Red, don't piss them off. If you don't remember me saying anything else, I'm pretty sure you may recall that day comes. Now here's what I mean by that. The cameras are rolling. When you put stuff on Facebook, when you send newsletters out, when you share things, just a neighbor, you need to represent this party professionally, courteously. You need to listen. If you don't mind about not being listened to, not good, listen, learn how to do it. Get your facts right. There are things that have gone out in publications in the last 6 months that are utterly wrong, that have stirred up a little bit of anger. And it does not help us. And it certainly doesn't help those of us that are there, because it's projecting a public image that is not one of good leadership. Now, I might agree with somebody, and I think you would probably be of the same mind, that if I agree with somebody on every single issue there is, which pretty much is the guy in here, if you can't lead with integrity, you can't lead with some civility, I wouldn't ask him to leave a basket of vegetables near the door. Most of our voters are not bright red. Think some of them, okay? We're working on that. God knows you can tell a lot of jokes behind closed doors, and they can tell as many about us. I hate to break it to you people, but we're scared of comedians and anybody else. People want leadership, not just the positions. And most of our Vermont voters are in the middle, and they're trying to figure the issues out. They're trying to figure out, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about kids sleeping in cars without breaking the bank? What are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about that? And what they're not getting, what you can give them, is intelligent, measured, polite discussions. They want to know that somebody's up there, not on crusade, to solve the problem. And my own race was only decided by 40 votes, because my community has a really big voter population in the middle. Now, I will tell you, Vermonters have always decided to do whatever Vermonters want to do. This is why local control is important to us. This is why we don't like outside organizations coming in and pushing politics around in Vermont. Right? My earliest family member born on Vermont soil arrived 250 years and 7 months ago. So let me speak to what it is to be a Vermonter. Our Constitution is based on the notion that people can govern themselves and that they can talk about things that work them out. And it only works if they can talk about things and figure out for themselves what's going to work out. I sat through the entire Wyndham town meeting not too long ago. Best town meeting I think I've ever been to. Started at 10 a.m. with bluegrass. All right, they broke around 10:30 or 1:30 for a potluck lunch. It was historic. And they went till 3:40 in the afternoon. And they talked about every single item on the agenda. And, well, what about doing it this way? What if we amend it that way? And how about the culvert up on such and so forth? Everybody in Wyndham knows where all the culverts are. Not sure. But it was a town meeting that I remember, and they weren't all in agreement. They're still talking about what to do with the school they closed. They're still kind of working through that. But they talk about it, they talk about it, they talk about it. The only existential question we have in this country is the inability to do that. If you want to turn Vermont red, we need to show the bulk of Vermont that we're the ones that can lead and do that. We need to convince them that we are the right leaders, not just the right positions. They care about the positions. They care about who's sitting up there. So please, as you write, as you do your editorial, as you put memes on Facebook or tell jokes, be aware of who's listening. They are watching. And the people who have not yet decided how they're going to vote in the next election, they are watching. So I'll talk politics and I'll tell you all about the House Committee on Education bill that just went through, the VAA, all that. I can talk to you all day about that. But right now, this is the message I need you to know is that we need to project the right image of this party if we are going to continue to get enough votes to make a difference. Right now, we can put the brakes on. But we need a few more people in there before we can shift into reverse and kind of change the direction of where some of these things are going. Right, you elected a preacher, this is what you got.
Thank you, Tom.
Mr. Casey Coda.
Good afternoon. I'm Casey Coda, family business. We've worked very hard over the last 83 years, keeping Vermonters warm. But here I'm not talking on behalf of Coda. I'm going to talk about all Vermonters and all the ones that rely on medium and heavy duty trucks to get all the services to your house, plow your roads, get your power lines going again, heat, emergency services, and all that stuff. And it is a very important issue because we're actually heading towards a proverbial cliff. Together we share Vermont's commitment of trying to make sure we choose the right vehicles to be able to do the jobs that we do. And right now, the implementation of Vermont's advanced clean truck regulation is standing in the way of making sure we're moving faster than technology is ready to do that. Medium and heavy duty trucks are the workhorse of Vermont. It is what brings our groceries to our stores, plow our roads, maintain public infrastructure, support utility crews, keeping agricultural and forestry products moving in our state. They're our backbone that keeps our economy running. Without them, Vermont doesn't function. Under Vermont's Clean Act, Advanced Clean Trucks, or ACT, ACT, regulation, truck manufacturers are being required to offer a growing share of zero-emission trucks, while the number of diesel trucks available will be capped at a maximum that they can sell. Problem is this, electric alternatives that exist today simply do not work in the needs that we have for Vermont with cold weather. Whether it's our steep grades, on our mountain roads, cold weather, or the long distances for rural areas to be able to get today's electricity to try and power those vehicles they want us to have. Even if we could do that, the cost is still out of reach. According to the California Air Resource Board, electric vehicles Class 8, which are the ones that do the plowing and all that, they will cost approximately $435,000, which is about $280,000 more than the existing ones. That is unaffordable for businesses to be able to do that. It's unaffordable for towns to maintain budgets to be able to keep trucks on the road. And the other issue is those vehicles with the batteries actually weigh twice the weight of the regular vehicles. That is a concern because obviously there are a lot of dirt roads in Vermont. It's hard to keep them working, especially during mud season. That also goes for our school buses. So with the weight of those vehicles, they'll actually be over the GVW that are legal to be able to drive on those roads. roads. While this is happening, this is going to put an impact on all the car manufacturers as well. So there's a car and a truck mandate that's coming down the road, and it's gonna make it difficult for car dealers to stay in business. That's in Chevrolet, family business, been around a long, long time, and all the other ones in Vermont. And that is a concern for me because these are the people that help run our communities. When we need volunteers, when we need fundraising, they're the ones that put back into the community. And on the frustrating part, diesel has come a long way, right? The diesel trucks of the early 80s and 70s, belching black smoke, they don't do that anymore. In fact, all the particulates that have been out there because of the new fuels and the new engines have dropped by 99%. Fuel efficiency has improved dramatically as well, cutting CO2 emissions by more than 40% since 2010. The reality is we're already doing all the stuff they want us to do. But under ACT, Vermont businesses are facing a shrinking supply of vehicles for cleaner diesel. Some are even considering setting up in New Hampshire, which means we'll lose more tax revenue, more things to pay the bills in Vermont. Those are real consequences. The truck registrations in Vermont alone generate more than $15 million of tax revenue that goes to our education and transportation funds. If we lose the businesses to other states, we're going to lose that revenue, and as we know, property taxes are already too high. Vermont isn't alone in facing these challenges. States like Massachusetts, New York, implemented the Act a year before us. They are already seeing the slowdown in truck sales due to the cost and the supply chain issue. That could lead to more businesses holding on to older vehicles that are putting out more emissions than what their goal is actually really trying to do. That is why today I'm urging the legislature, but I'm also encouraging all of us to get our voice heard, to at least ask them to rescind the act, or at the very least, delay its implementation. A delay isn't about giving up on clean transportation. We all want clean diesel trucks to run. It's about making sure we have the right tools in place so everybody can do their job, we can maintain our communities, we can keep our roads clear, we can keep our power on, we can keep our heat going, and get our food to our stores. And I encourage all of you to go online, go to the vermontdrive.com/petition, because we need to get our message out, not just to the Republicans, but to the Democrats to realize this is going to have a huge impact on how all of us live our daily lives, and it's already too expensive to live in the state. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you, Board and Kelly.
Here he is, Mr. Terry Williams.
Thanks, Stacy. I'm on the Natural Resources and Energy Committee and the Education Committee. So I sit across the table from Scott Beck in the morning, and we text each other back and forth about all the nonsense that's going on. I'm an 8th generation Vermonter. My great-grandson was just born. He's an 11th generation. It doesn't really matter where you're from. Everybody came from someplace because Vermont was nothing but beaver ponds and different Native American tribes at one time. My grandmother's family came here, not on the Mayflower, but the next year in 1621. And I think she landed somewhere in Massachusetts, or not her family. So anyway, I'm just a common guy. Blue collar, common sense, respectful, common decency. I'm also the Southern Vice President of the Vermont Federation of Sportsmen's Clubs. And we defend the rights of people to exercise their constitutional right to hunt, fish, and fowl in the state of Vermont. I see Bert Saldy's here. Bert, I got involved with the politics. A friend of mine happened to his class in Outlet. He was a lobbyist for the Federation. And for 3 years, I retired from the Army in 2004. And for 3 years, I got bored. I started hanging around 11 at the State House. And I couldn't believe the nonsense that I was seeing. And most of the people that are affecting your pocketbooks and mine don't come from here. Most of the influences are from outside the state. Many of them in California. If you don't believe it, get on the state legislative website and look at where your legislators come from. They're not from Vermont. This is like California 2.0 right here. So if you want to know why we're trying to get clean energy and clean air standards and electric vehicle mandates that come from California, that's why. So the reason I'm here right now is not, I'm kind of going to follow the first one up. We need your help. Okay? The only thing that we've got that's going for us right now is the Constitution of the United States and the state of Vermont. And every time somebody brings something up that I think is unconstitutional, I bring them back to that document. That's the base document of everything we do here. And they don't like that. They want to get rid of this Constitution. And I'm not going to sit here and make up like I'm a radical, because I'm not. I want to live in peace. I came back to Vermont, I've lived here all my life. My kids are still here. And we need the people to stand up, tell their elected officials how they want them to vote. And if they don't vote the way you want them to, get them out of there. Because we need depth on the bench. Kind of goes along with what Scott said. Every town in this state should be organized with a Republican committee. And it's really not about party, okay? There are a lot of good people in that state house that are on the other side of the aisle from where I sit. But they're also influenced by their party. And I've had people in my party tell me, I say, they go around the table and say, how are you going to vote? I'm not going to vote this way. Well, I'm not going to tell you how to vote. Well, once in a while, tell me how you want me to vote, because I understand taking vote for the team, okay? But the Dems don't do that. They are always voting the way they're told. I'm starting to see some people that are different than that. Where's Leo? There's Leo and I are brothers, okay? We've shared some of the same experiences. And I was talking to him the other night, well, you like stand-up comedy. How many people in here remember Dirty Johnny? Anybody? Well, Dirty Johnny was a kid. The teacher would never call him because he always had some kind of a dirty remark, okay? So, Vito and I were sharing some Dirty Johnny jokes. There's quite a few, but I won't get into that. But I'm like Dirty Johnny. They all sit in my committee, and both committees, and they're both chaired by people in the other party. And I'll raise my hand, and they really don't want to call me because they're afraid of what I'm going to say. Kind of like the teacher in Dirty Johnny's case. So, but I have an opinion. I won't normally say anything until I get to the point where my filter's plugged and I can't take any more BS. When I have to say, I'm going to say it. So, also say, so, we're in trouble. Spending, we got a spending problem on to it. Climate justice, Agenda 2030, I won't get into that, because I believe that there's something to it, and I believe that Vermont is kind of a test bed. And I always ask, why Vermont? Why are we always the first to get the gun control bills? They always try it, and we're able to drag it back because it's unconstitutional in most cases. Some of our cases, we've actually gone to the Supreme Court, we're waiting on a decision right now. magazine ban, and 72-hour waiting period to purchase a product, okay? Ticks, now we've got Easterly pine, cephalitis. So it's almost like somebody's planting those things here, so we have to get out. But it's all about Vermont. If you ever look at 2030, agenda 2030, the original was they had a map of Vermont. And right in the northeast, where Vermont is, it said uninhabited. And it's all about clean water. And if you don't believe it, start paying some attention to our committee's YouTube videos when we go through the natural resources management. But, it's got to be something to do with it because so much been happening. So, how many people in here are under 20 years old? Anybody under 30? Anybody under 30? Look around. Everybody in here is older than 50 years old. And most of us have got gray hair. I have all my teeth, but they're starting to get a little bit shorter than they used to be. We need to start mentoring the next generation to take over for us, because we're not going to do that. Right? So everybody here needs to bring your grandchild, start talking to them, bring them into what's going on and what we need, how to defend our rights. And they need help. I'm in Windsor County right now because I know we need to reach across county lines. Vermont County has 3 of the 3 senators in Oklahoma. Right? And we're happy about that. But that's what means they're coming after us. They're coming for us. So we need depth on the bench. We need more people to get involved. And we need you all to tell your elected officials that they need to do what you tell them. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Next up, Vermont State Republican Chair, Paul Day.
Thanks, Roy. And let's give a round of applause to Roy and Kelly for this amazing. Some people know I've got a little bit of history with Windsor County, so I'm glad to be here on good terms. And I think that, if you know, you know. I think that is really the key to part of our success last year, is we had a really fractured party like a year and a half ago. And I remember being really discouraged at how we're at everyone's throat because when you're losing, right, all your enemies are close to you, right? It's everyone else's fault. Anyone who's married knows that, right? It's the person who's closest to you that you want to blame for all your problems. And we have to realize that it's the person who's closest to us who is our best ally in all this world. And so I'm really glad to be here with Roy and Kelly and all the folks here. And I think what happened is we turned a corner last year, right around about a year ago. And as we started to get into campaign season, I saw everybody who had been at each other's necks. I'm so glad, I'm saying this, and it feels like 100 years ago, but it wasn't. It was like a year, 18 months. And people started to work together. I think we all saw the importance of the goal that was ahead of us and how closely within reach it was. We put aside a lot of the other things that drive us and focused on those things that all brought us together. That all helped, that were the reasons we were all Republicans. And we had greater success last year than we had in October. It was because people from all over the state came together. It's great. A year ago, there were no Republicans from Windsor County. And now we have 3. And these guys did a lot of hard work, but I also know they had a lot of support from people whose names that may never get talked about. And that's critical. And I think we've got that opportunity to do more of that. I'm curious, is there anybody in here from Bennington County? Okay, just one. Okay, you're right up front. think Bennington County is one of our biggest pickup opportunities. I think we've got a chance to flip both of those Senate seats, and there's a couple of House seats there. So I am, even though I'm up in Chickadee County, I have not forgotten about the southern part of the state. And Bennington County is, I think, a real opportunity for us. One of the problems that we've had in the past, especially on the Senate, is we don't have a strong bench. We don't have as strong of a bench as we needed to win a majority last time, as a couple other folks said, we were short on a couple of candidates. One of the things that we were successful in for the first time in the 10 years that I've been involved was we had 3 of our House members who had been elected to the House decide to run for Senate. That's not something Republicans usually do. This is something I commented to in the press previously. Most of the time, Republicans put their family first, work, and politics is third. And so a lot of times we have Republicans who run, they'll serve 2, 3, maybe 4 terms in the House, and they go back home, or they go back to their business. And none of us think of this as like a career path, right? Because we're all Republicans, we're productive people, we know that we can help our community sometimes in more ways by running a small business, by hiring people. We know that that's where our value is, and so we don't put a lot of stock in running for office. But what we did is we saw a couple of folks decide, I'm gonna leave my house and run for Senate, and all 3 of those guys were successful. And I think as we start to think more about how do we do more Senate seats, how do we start to compete for statewide seats, it's gonna take folks running, do a couple terms in the House, and there's 3 Windsor County Senate seats, right? We've got 3 Windsor House members right now. So I think we've got to compete this year, but certainly we're going to be in a much stronger position 2 or 3 terms from now when these guys have a couple terms under their belt and they can run and there's an opening and they can be very, very strong candidates. I think about that a lot. It's sort of everybody's on this progression. Even Terry Williams, who's up here before me, I can remember coming to meetings when Terry wasn't really interested in running. He was just involved, and he'd come to state committee meetings, and eventually he ran, and he became a senator from Vermont County. And that's how it starts. It starts by coming to a meeting like this, getting a little bit more involved, and then maybe you run for House, maybe you run for Senate, and moving up that ladder. I think, like I mentioned before, one of the successes we had is we focus on the issues we agree on. We listen to what Vermonters are saying, which was the same thing that we were saying. Our property taxes are too high. It's becoming unsafe in places that we thought were totally safe. I mean, there was a carjacking in Williston. I never heard of a carjacking in Vermont. And there was in the suburban community up north. And we won some big seats, but we did win a majority. We still have the governor and his veto, and that allows us to stop really bad things from happening. But we don't have enough people to do good things here. And as Scott was talking about before, that's what we're going to need that majority for. It's hard to do it all in one swoop. I think we made amazing gains this year, and I think also those gains give us momentum going into 2026 that we didn't have. If you remember, a lot of us are feeling dejected, hopeless, right? After the 2020 election, the 22 election, it was demoralizing. And it was hard to get people to run for office until the property tax bill showed up in the mail. That's why we had almost 20 people join late. So it was tough to get people to run last year. Now, we're running after huge wins, and I think it gives us the opportunity to get more people interested and higher quality candidates involved, right? If you go out to someone and say, hey, would you like to be Senator number 8? Yeah, I think I'm kind of busy. But if you're talking to people about being Senator number 14, 15, or 16, you're going to get a lot more people interested, people who are well known in the community. But one of the things we did last year is I went around to, I think, about 8 or 9 of the counties and we did a candidate recruiting brainstorming session. I know Scott was the one we did up in Caledonia County. And in some of those cases, it turned up candidates. So I'd be happy to come back here in Windsor County, and we could do one of those because I think now we can start a lot sooner this time around. The last time Republicans had a majority in the House, we ran 120 candidates. In the 10 years I've been involved, I don't know that we could ever run that many. Usually 99 out of 100 is kind of where we top out. So it is going to require us to do more than we've ever done before if we want to be more successful than we ever have been before. And I think there's good reason to be hopeful. As I look at the election results from all of the House districts that John Rogers either won or was within 5%, there are 92 of those districts. That tells me there's 92 districts where the margin was close enough that those people were willing to vote for a Republican. Okay? And I think if we are able to get high-quality candidates who can run very intentional races, knocking on doors, shaking hands, that we can make up those gaps. And we don't have to win all 92. We only need 76 to get a majority in the House, so I think that's very possible. But one of my concerns is that 2024 is going to be a lot like 2014 was. Some folks know I was a former state rep. I ran in 2012 unsuccessfully. I came back the second time, ran again in 2014, and I beat a 6-year incumbent Democrat. And I'm still the only Republican to have served in that district for the last 25 years. It was the biggest sort of red wave that we had had up to that point. It was amazing. We had 53 Republicans. We had me, House Leader Patty McCoy, Scott Beck, we were all freshmen that year. It was a tremendous year. Republicans were excited. We didn't have a Republican governor, but we had some momentum. And the next year was a bloodbath. We had spent so much time trying to get as many seats as we can that we didn't work that hard to keep. And so one of the things that I think is absolutely critical for us to remember is if we want to get ahead, the best way to make sure we do that is to make sure we don't fall behind. We've got a lot of good candidates. You've got 3 brand new House members here in Windsor County. Those guys need to be the most vulnerable that any candidate ever is after their first term. When you're running for the first time, you don't have a record. Your opponent does, so you get to make a lot of contrast. And what will happen is the Democrats are going to intentionally put together votes. They're going to put these guys on the spot, and they're going to use those votes to try to make them sound like people that they aren't. And we've got to make sure they've got support, and we can protect them. And we can avoid repeating history from the last time that we had a red wave. The other issue that we've got to recognize with is the party has fundamentally changed with Donald Trump. Some people think for worse, some people think for better, but one thing that to me is obvious and clear is turnout has changed. When I was running in 2014, it used to be that Republican turnout was better in the midterms, and Democratic turnout was better in the presidential years. Okay? That has changed. We've seen that totally flip around. Because I believe Trump has brought a lot more people into the party voting Republican that never voted at all before. They were never registered, they weren't interested, they thought their vote didn't matter, it didn't count, they were completely demoralized and brought them into the party. But what that has meant is that those voters will turn out, or have turned out for Trump, and they haven't turned out in the off years. So we've got to make sure that we're going after those voters and other voters too, who don't get involved in presidential years. Or non-presidential years. We've got, the demographic information shows that those people are more likely our voters than they used to be 10 or 15 years ago. A couple of people mentioned, one thing that, there's a lot of, you can spend a whole day talking about the pandemic and the results from it. One of the good things I think came out of the pandemic was that when the legislature moved to going all online and on all YouTube, when they came back to the building, they left the YouTube stuff on. Which means there is absolute gold. And Rob Roper has been doing a tremendous job identifying some of those things and sharing those. But any one of them can do that. If you have a Democrat who represents you, whether you're in Windsor County or somewhere else, you can find out what committee they're on, and every day you can go there and watch what they do. And if you find them saying anything stupid, you send it to me, send it to Rob, and we can get it out. I think it's just so many hours of that stuff. I can't watch it all, Rob can't watch it all. But if you are following just your rep, you can be like my, like the James O'Keefe, right, of your rep. You can be that person who's telling your rep, finding out what are they doing, and helping us publicize some of the problems. I've been doing a lot of that this last month. We had 4 cases, what I call activist Democrats. Okay? These are Democrats who are not there serving the people, like I know all of our guys are. They are there because they're activists, they have an agenda, and that's all they care about. A lot of folks have heard about these, there were 2 legislators who organized sort of a counter protest to an informational meeting that folks were having on about detransitioning. You had 2 legislators trying to create a scene at the State House. They're activists, they're not legislators, they're not there listening to both sides, right? They're trying to get their agenda across and stopping other people from saying what they want to say. The other issues, we had one representative from Burlington, Kate Logan, flew down to Washington, D.C. and got arrested during her protest. And she missed a vote in the House, and ironically, the vote that she missed was about public safety. Kind of a problem in Burlington, isn't it? Okay? So these folks are not showing up, and then the 4th one we had Senator Tommy Bahofsky. Instead of the Clean Heat bill, the repeal of that bill, getting a vote, Tommy Bahofsky flies off to Europe to talk about Ukraine, a Vermont state senator, engaged in international politics. Meanwhile, we're holding this vote, waiting for her to come back. Then we get back and we realize they didn't even have the votes for that. So there's an opportunity for all of us. I've been doing a little bit, but the more help we have to hold these people accountable, like Rob mentioned before, holding those Democrats accountable has helped us flip some of those seats. I'll close on this. I think as we're thinking about the ideal candidate, and again, we have to come back down and do a process on this, the best candidates are people who are connected to their community. I think that's what we've seen. That's what's been our secret sauce. Folks who are well-known in town, who have connections, who've been there. And sometimes in the past, Democrats will go after these people who are kind of in the middle. They're not really that political, but they've been on the select board, they've been a fire chief, something like that. And the Democrats convince them to join the dark side. Just because they get there first and they convince good people to go over there. And a lot of those people, once they get there, they realize they made a mistake. They wish that they could go different. We can be doing the same things. We can be going and talking to the police chief, the road commissioner, all those folks that everybody in town knows, and try to convince them to become Republicans, or maybe find out that they are Republicans. But it was one of my favorite things that I did when I was a state rep. When I was knocking on doors, I'd go to one house and they'd say, well, yeah, I'd say, I'm running for state rep. And they said, well, you're running for Republican or Democrat? I'm on the Chippy County, right? So I was like, well, I'm pretty fiscally conservative, so I'm not going to run as a Republican. And they said, oh, good, me too. But don't tell me. I'm the only one on my street. So I felt pretty good about that. Walked next door, knocked on the next door. Said, I'm running for state rep. And said, are you running as Republican or Democrat? I don't see anything on your flyer. I had a little more confidence this time. I said, well, I'm running as a Republican. I said, oh, me too, but don't tell anyone. I'm the only one on my street. I said, that's not true. I just talked to your neighbor. They told me the same thing. Who knows how long those 2 people had been inside this time. And they were so afraid to say anything that they never found out that they had that immunity, but they never talked about it. And what it takes is you guys getting involved, having meetings like this, getting involved in your town committees. And you get to be the people that go in and knock on those doors, bring those people together, and help us all in 2026. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Paul. Next up, the man who gives Republicans a voice in the paper, Guy Page.
Show of hands. How many of you receive the Vermont Daily Chronicle in your email every day? That's maybe half. Thank you for those who do. And for those of you who don't, the Vermont Daily Chronicle is published 6 days a week, online, Vermont news, from a, generally a pretty conservative perspective, because that's who I am. And the kind of stories we do, okay, gotta get this thing open up. Oh, we do stories like, it's www.vermontdailychronicle.com. We do stories like, well, a reckoning coming for COVID lockdowns and mandates, Children's Health Defense President predicts in the State House last week. Some guy named Clark, writing an op-ed saying, can schools force jab children with COVID-19 shots? Joe Gervais over in Bennington County saying Vermont's Attorney General, Sherry Clark, gaslights election integrity. And advanced clean car and truck regulations, I think we've heard about those in Casey, right? Mean devastation for businesses. We're now also covering the White House press pool because we covered J.D. Vance's visit, and now we're in the White House press pool, so we get their notes, we're starting to publish those. Any veterans here? God bless you. Yes. We're probably the only media that's really covering the veterans, the incredible efforts to get a income tax exemption for veterans, a 100% exemption. Some crazy guy named Thayer organizing a Vermont parents rally against toxic indoctrination in schools. Rebecca was there also, Rebecca Petrie. There's a lot of heroes in this room right now. I could literally go, I could go right to left. I could start with someone like Nancy Gassett from Bennington County. Down to the beast, Wyndham County, but she's down there saying, speaking the truth. One of the, as far as I'm concerned, Father of the Year, Kevin Windsor over here. That's the editor. Thank you very much. Rob Roper, who's the real source of Vermont Daily Chronicle, sort of source, the inspiration. He stood up at a meeting 13, 14 years ago and he said, you know what, people? You need to become your own media. BYOM, become your own media. And I was, at the time, a former journalist in the lobby thinking, that'd be kind of cool. So 2017 rolls around, and I'm sitting in the State House cafeteria thinking, these people, the press corps, they have no clue what's going on in this building. So I started writing my own blog, just to get it out, just to vent, right? Well, I became my own media, and that's now the Vermont Daily Chronicle. That's what we're doing. John, bring me that hat. Right, please. Right? No, the other one. Yeah, that one. Bring me that. Okay. We are also doing a podcast called Friday at 4 with social media director Paul Bean, best hire ever made. And one of our sponsors, Procter Gas, who's Terra. Every Friday, Paul Bean is this young 25-year-old conservative, former candidate, who This guy has got a gift for social media. The reason our views have gone up to 2 million views a year now we're at is because we don't have people. You know? So I'm very grateful for him. The other heroes in this room, he's going to be embarrassed, but Chris Pratt, Bridgewater Guard, there are people in this room who speak their truth. And the Chronicle was made for people who speak their truth. And it doesn't even always have to be conservative. It's just people who are sort of X'd out of the sort of the media universe. And it's for them. And commenters like the real Vermonter, Bert Sulby, is right here, thank you. He's very prolific. And one of our speakers who's going to be coming up here is Zach Harden, Representative Zach Harden from Pasadena. And he's the guy who, when an ACLU lawyer in the House Judiciary Committee was saying, we need to get all these free speech rights for all these Hamas protesters, he was going, what? What are you talking about? And there was a wonderful little kerfuffle in House Judiciary over that. And I really got to have Brooke Page, too, who was always taking on the Secretary of State. So if you haven't gotten the point already, what the Chronicle does is we give you all a voice. And not only the folks that I mentioned, who have all, and I probably have left out a few, but we are the last remaining media in Vermont, as far as I can tell, that really allows comments. You can actually read a story, put in your real name, and comment on it. And people can read it. And Rob Roper is telling me, said, frankly, I like your stories, but the comments are the best part. And I kind of agree. More interesting than what I write most of the time. So anyway, if you don't subscribe, if you're half the folks in this room who don't subscribe to the Chronicle, what I want to encourage you to do is to go to our website, and there's the menu thing there, and it says subscribe. Costs you nothing. Great business model, right? You give it all away for free. Okay? But we do have to make money. I gotta pay Paul. I don't pay myself very much, but I need to pay him and some other people. So there are also a number of you in this room who are my heroes. You know what? I didn't mention the people who have been running for federal office. I don't know if Mark Poster's in the room, but he took on Becca Ballard. All right. And there's a guy who took on a really big oligarch, outrageous oligarch of Vermont. Bernie Sanders. That's Gerald Moore. And very happy returns to the voting. Okay? So anyway, I do need to pay Paul. So next to that subscribe part, there's a little thing that says contribute. And this is how it all works. Is we got people here who are what we call sustaining subscribers, and they give $9 a month, or they send you a check for $108 a month, or whatever. And there's an online contribution thing that you can go to there. You can really check. I would not be offended. But this is how this works, because yes, we do have some advertisers. Thank you, Judy, very much for advertising, bringing a sponsor. Thank you, Chris Pratt, also. But really, all of the money for the Chronicle comes from you. And because there's no sugar daddy, there's no big foundation that essentially is paying the media to give their message. Do you have the VTV? I don't know. How many reporters do you think they have? How many news staff do you think they have? Guess? Any guess? What's that? I heard 20. 20 is right. 20 reporters, editors, and photographers, plus the 4 interns that they have, and the 600 people. Well, we have about a tenth of that, okay? But we also don't have any big foundations who are giving us a lot of money either. And so we rely on you. So that is, I think, my spiel, and I probably talked way too long. Oh yeah, we now have the Burlington spin-off, the Burlington Daily News. We're covering, talk about the belly of the beast. We have a Burlington news operation that's starting to kill it there, and can't wait. Sometime in the next month or two, you're going to be hearing news, I think, where the Chronicle is partnering with another Vermont-based news-ish organization and going to exponentially grow this thing in terms of attention and news. So what's happening? I hope I didn't just mess it up by mentioning it. But anyway, that's my spiel. Thank you very much.
Especially I want to thank my wife, Stacy. And you know, we've had some great speakers here, and I was just thinking, Paul, it's almost about 3 years ago, I went to the, I announced on March 7th, about a week later, we had the hotel there. I don't know if there's some people that were at that meeting. We were kind of disjointed, we weren't in very good shape, but we've come very, very far. And one of the big things that's been mentioned many times, but I want to say congratulations to everyone in this room for performance in 2024. The greatest skate games in the entire United States of America. That's absolutely fantastic. I didn't know that the numbers were up to it was about 24 out of 57. That's even more across the whole country. So I want to thank the crew over there, all the folks that are in the trenches. That made in 24. That's kind of why I had to in 22, because this state is going in the wrong direction. And that ring literally to save Vermont. Save Vermont from going in that bad direction. And I appreciate it very much. Very proud to be part of all that. Yeah, I do want to cover a couple of things, and people ask me all sorts of questions, and one of them, first off, unfortunately, I tell you, just this past week, I've spent a lot of time in D.C. Actually, with some senators, but last week, mine passed away, and I went to a funeral at Arlington. They did an unbelievable job there, but at the reception, I was really bombarded by a whole bunch of my West Point classmates talking about President Trump. And I want to talk about that a little bit. I support President Trump 100%. I'm honored that he endorsed me. I spoke with him for a long time. He's a very, very intelligent, very, very reasonable man. And I support him, and there's some reasons for that. First off, he has a mandate from the American people to make changes. And I get it, change is tough, some people don't like it, but these are changes that need to be made. I can tell you personally, I've been in or around the U.S. government for about 45 years. We need changes, we need fiscal policy changes, economic changes, foreign policy changes, and he's doing that. And he's doing that from a mandate from the people, so I support that. But it actually goes even further. You've heard the word mentioned a couple of times. It gets right back to the United States Constitution. And that's what he's doing. Our Constitution was never about this massive, growing federal government. It's about states' rights. And he's doing that right now. So I applaud his efforts 100%. And I will tell you, I think what he's also doing is he's showing the people that the progressive left, I get it, there's some good Democrats out there, but the progressive left has nothing to offer the people of Vermont or the people of America. That's what we're seeing. I saw this sign here. My son took that out of the RNC. He carried it out. And I just want to tell folks, a lot of folks that were there for the RNC. Saturday was an attempt on President Trump's life. Monday, I think other folks that were there, you could feel the United States of America moving back in the right direction, starting that Monday at the RNC. And I'm very grateful for that. Frankly, I think the Lord above kept President Trump here on planet Earth. I will tell you, a lot of people ask me, I spent a lot of time in DC lately, so what am I going to do next? I am thinking about running for office here again in Vermont. I am actually I'm in the mix of possibly as an appointee still, so we'll see. I will say you saw the president commenting on it recently that there's, the Democrats are just putting obstacles in the way of that process. So we'll see as time goes on. But one of the things, I look at that, and I know there's some comments been made, some great comments here about leadership. And one of the reasons I ran in 22, because I looked at Drew Welch, I said he's not going to deliver results for Vermont. I thought it was a better candidate than the opponent in the primary. Kind of the same thing in 24. And what bothers me, one of the reasons I am going to run again, is because right now we don't have effective leadership. We don't have representation in Washington right now. I know Tom talked about being nice, but frankly, it's irrelevant, frankly. That's what it is. And I personally think, we got to keep fighting and get more positions in the state and the federal government, the House and the Senate. But frankly, I think we're looking at a 12-year run here to really get our country moving back in the right direction. So, thinking about doing all that, I will say I've got a kind of conservative family, and it is challenging running for U.S. Senate. And one of the things I have been working on, was the fundraising piece, and I thought it was a lot of money to run for U.S. Senate, particularly 24, but it's not $10 million. That's what I've been going for 4 times. So I am hoping to see if I can kind of lay the groundwork to actually get some real national support, because what I think is going to happen is, as President Trump leads these changes that need to be made, I think even Vermonters are going to see the light. See the light, and for a better future for Vermont and for our whole country. It is challenging running, and I wanted to add just a quick little story about running. So last 24 running against Bernie Sanders, and it was in August. We started engaging Senator Sanders for debate. Debate. He actually found out a couple of opportunities there. September, no debate. So, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, in October, he said, let's do 3 debates on 3 consecutive nights. And when I talk about it being challenging, a little crappy. But, so I did the first debate on DPRs, 3 against 1. I think I won that one. Second debate, CAX, 3 against 1. I think I won that one. And I don't say I think I won just because of me. I had the toughest critic in the whole country tell me I won all 3 debates. My wife, Stacy. A little bit of levity here, because the 3rd debate, it's kind of hard to watch this whole thing transpire, because on that day, 3 nights in a row, it's tough, live TV, the whole thing. And on that Friday, the Vermont Springfield Correctional Institute had a big event where they invited all the candidates to come in, and the governor was invited, and Senator Sanders was invited. But Senator Sanders who spent hardly any time here in Vermont. I saw that, and that bothered me, so I go to this thing in Springfield that morning, spend several hours there, no governor, no Senator Sanders. And then I raced all the way up to Burlington, and I get into a hotel, and I go online to be on another debate of several other candidates. Senator Sanders was supposed to be on that. He wasn't at that one either. And I'm racing through this debate. Now it's like 6 o'clock, and it starts at 7. I said, well, I'm in this debate. I said, I gotta leave the debate. I gotta get ready to go to this live TV thing against Senator Sanders. So I shave and shower. I cut the heck out of this. I'm telling you, he was a bleeder. And so I shave, and I'm looking in the mirror at graphic part. I'm looking at like, heck, I had a tick. It lodged in my chest, and I'm not kidding you. Tweezers and a knife, I could not get it out. I'm not kidding. So now it's like 6:45, and Charles and my wife are racing over the place, because we got lost. So we're racing around, it's like, now it's like, 6:55, the thing starts at 7. And I'm running and I'm bleeding. And we're in this little room, Stacey's yelling to all the people at NBC5, it's like, any women, getting makeup or anything, so she's like, put this stuff on. So I run into the room, and it's Senator Sanders, and I'm like, the guy's putting on both of my microphones, and I was like, you're not bleeding. He's like, no, you're not bleeding. So they start doing the countdown, 10, 9, 5, 4, 3. And Senator Sanders, he's like, where's my water? Where's my water? Where's my water? He said, where's my water? Where's my water? I was like, it's right underneath. Why do we throw the thing? Both of my microphones up So they got me elsewhere, but so it is challenging. Tom said not to be mean, but I gotta say, I did 3 debates with Bernie Sanders. I spent about 4 hours with the guy. Folks, Bernie Sanders cares about one thing. Bernie Sanders. I saw it. There was a lot of stuff that happened. I watched the video, he didn't talk to anybody. And I'm meeting everybody with the place.
Thank God he didn't need Dr. King.
Huh?
Thank God he didn't need the Dr. King.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I can understand it. But, this is a great event, and mentioned by many of the speakers, we've got to keep going. We've got to, get it to the point where Vermont, here in Vermont, we can actually, start making some changes, get Vermont back on track. That's why I ran in the first place. It's a great state. And I think Terry mentioned, I'm not another generation, I was born in Boston, but served all over the world. And I'm proud of you, Vermont. And when I talked about, at the RNC, I talked about freedom and unity. We came together, and we had those great wins in 24. We're going to do it again in 26. It kind of turned out today shows that. So thank you. God bless you.
Next up, Mr. V.L. Cobb, Windsor 2.
So, thank you all that stayed this long already. Much appreciated. I had things I was going to say, but for me, being in the State House is an honor. All of you that helped me get there, I thank you for that. But one of the things that was said today that is important to me is staying away from the rhetoric. Haven't heard it here today. It's amazing. And that's why I changed what I was going to say, because what I did notice, and I found it funny, that we're all here talking openly, freely, with no vitriol and nothing. And on the Facebook page where this was posted, it's funny that my opponent, luckily I beat him, commented we should be thankful, that they should be thankful that we're hiding this event behind a paywall. And to me, that's hysterical. For a Democrat complaining that he can't afford to get in here because there's a paywall, but yet they helped to make this take that unaffordable, that a business owner, small business owner, couldn't afford to come to the event. I would have paid for him if he had just messaged me. He knows my email. It's out there. He knows my Facebook. He could have messaged me. I would have gladly paid his way in just so he could hear what peaceful is. Because we don't get out there and shout in the streets. It's not what we do. We work hard. We stand for the people. When I'm in the State House, I see it. There are many of us who reach out across. We try to help. We try to work with the other side. H54 that just left the House the floor yesterday, we were asked to help them get that through and off the floor. We took volunteers from our side and said, okay, we'll give you that yes vote we need to move this on to the Senate. Even though this is a horrible bill, we're going to do this so it doesn't die, so that we can get this bill to the Senate. The Senate has promised us and assured the governor they will make it right. They will make it good for our children. They will cut down the costs. And that's teamwork. There was no arguments. There was, when we were asked to volunteer, for people to volunteer, we had more volunteers just to get it through, because it's not about the politics, it's about the children, about the teachers, about our communities. Are there things in there we don't like? Yeah, but the Senate has assured us it'll get fixed, get closer to what the governor was looking for. And that's what we need to do, is stay calm, focus on Vermont. Right? The governor said that. Focus on Vermont. We can't control what DC is doing. We can't control any of that. Whether we agree or disagree, we have zero control over that part of it. What we have control over is what we're doing here in Vermont, and what we're doing here in this room, and what we did in November to show that we need to make Vermont more affordable. And this hit home when he couldn't afford to come here. And I'm sorry, I didn't have the $25, I'd have helped him out. So, but what we need to do is stay calm, work together. We know that there's a problem. Okay, we know that there's bad bills up there, but I don't see anybody in the streets protesting, and that's great. We do what we gotta do, and we make a difference in our communities. And I've said it up there, but also that the strongest steel is forged in the fire of a dumpster. We'll just keep that fire contained. All right, and that's what we can do right now, is support the governor, try to keep bad bills from passing. With your support, we will prevail, and we'll keep things from going any more south than they have, because we work together, we stay up there calm, and when push comes to shove, we work together up there. Right? It's not about hatred going on, it's we're the party that's showing peaceful. We can do things right. And I thank you all for doing that. Even in short, it is short.
Next up, we have farmer, attorney, and author. Hang on through, John Fire.
Good afternoon, I'm Dirty Johnny. At least today I am, I'm joke about me. So, I traveled a long way to be here, and I'm honored to be here. You folks are awesome that you have come and spent your time this day. Because this is something, frankly, it's about populism. I wrote an article about this for 2016. I said, you know, people were like, both Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are populists, one on the left and one on the right. One sold out and one did not, in case you didn't notice. And so a lot of what I do, even though sometimes I can be the dirty Johnny, I mean, I'm here to actually stir things up a little bit. I write a lot, and I write nationally, what I call warning the nation about the canary in the Vermont coal mine, and what's happening in this state. And as we've been told, there is such a thing as an Agenda 2030. Go up, they don't hide it. World Economic Forum is staffed by the largest corporations in the world. They want to get rid of farmers so they can save the planet from global warming. Okay, they're destroying our food supply. The Vermonters should know that. It shouldn't matter what party they are. So what I do though, why I write is, as an attorney, don't hate me, everybody hates lawyers so they need one. You need one, and I write so that I can equip you and other people to have the messaging. And when I ran against Phil Scott, I ran on 3 issues. I think we have 3 issues next year. I think we've heard about it today from our legislators. We have property taxes, we have fuel taxes, and we have schools. We also have public safety. We're on 4 issues. But if we all run on those 4 issues, we win because it's about policies, it's not about party, right? Though it is about party. Because what I want to equip you with today ties in with everything we're talking about. I want to encourage you why we can win. And it starts, I'll start at the end, it starts, bear with me because I'll go a little off the rails, it's my job, I'm very John. It starts with a recent study I read about the study of the brain and the frontal lobe of the brain. And so, this is put on our perspective, by the way. Rob will talk about social media and how we use it. What is going on? So what's going on, and to cut, I have some quotes here from this book. This book is called The End of Race Politics, by the way. I highly recommend it. It's a great book. Arguments for a colorblind America. Oh, did he say colorblind? That means I'm a racist. Well, he's a black guy. He was on The View. That's what I heard of him. And I don't even know if he's a conservative. There are plenty of other books out here. The race wars created by those in the name of social justice are failing. The transgender war is failing. There are only 2 genders. But here in Vermont, I spoke on Wednesday about our schools and what they're indoctrinating children and terrifying them and telling them to hate themselves for being white or being male or being hetero or for burning fossil fuels while they destroy the planet building EV cars and solar panels that spew out forever chemicals that give us cancer and kill our children. Oh, after global warming and carbon dioxide? Baloney. So I want to show you what's going on with the brain. Okay, oh, where's the guy? Can you bring up my hat now? I'm afraid to wear this hat anywhere. This will make America healthy again now. How dare you try to make America healthy again? Can you imagine your car being heated or destroyed or burned or defecated on? People are, if you ever watch YouTube, I'm sorry to say this, we got grown-ups here, they're defecating on other liberals' cars. They're falling apart because there's something wrong with their brains, okay? And I want to tell you your brains are okay. I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to make my case now. I prepared this special for you folks. You ready? So what Coleman Hughes points out in this book is that one of the reasons they've got away with all their racism is the way social media works. Okay, we know now that Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok hurt the brain, not just young people. And that they fuel toxic information. They feed identity politics. As he writes in this book, it turns out that certain content has a much higher top speed than other content. Anything that appeals to our tribal identities, us versus them narratives, or historical grievances travels fast. Anything that emphasizes common humanity, rational analysis, or fact-checking, on the other hand, travels more slowly. We're the slow ones who win the race, okay? Everybody remember that? We're not the rabbit. Smartphones and other social media changed the speed limit of information, which in turn gave a massive competitive advantage to ideas, information, narratives, and arguments that tap into division, tribalism, and grievances. Neo-racism was among those ideologies. That's social justice, okay? TikTok, in China, they restrict watch certain content. It's positive content. It's about being prideful and patriotic. Not in this country. These algorithms feed the worst. And we do have to stick to our guns, as I think Tom pointed out, that we have to be nice, okay? I ran on Senate against Mark McDonald. I said, Vermonters are going to get sick of this nastiness. And they stole over 200 of my signs. I found one in his yard. I did a video of it. It was kind of funny, Mark McDonald's yard. Well, it's happening. There are people that maybe they had to see just enough of the poison sucked out on the left to understand that we are not racist. We are not misogynists. We're not the haters. We're not Nazis. Just because I have this hat on, that I want to make that Bobby Kennedy came forward. Because Trump derangement syndrome, right, it's now Kennedy derangement syndrome, it's Musk derangement syndrome, it's MAGA, if you voted for him, don't talk to me or come to our Christmas dinner because we hate you now. Oh yeah, you're so lovely and tolerant and rainbow faction. Notice that Trump and Musk and Kennedy were all Democrats. They loved them when they were Democrats. This is not a party of inclusion, this is uniparty. This is the party of one Marxist board that will not tolerate anybody differing with them. And I'm sorry, but I will speak up because I'm Dirty Johnny. I wonder though what they're doing and why we actually have the studies to prove it. Here's an article from Psychology Today written by a PhD a couple of years ago actually last year before the election. Now this is a guy who doesn't like Donald Trump, and the article is called The Paradox of Trump Derangement Syndrome. And he's talking as a doctor about the difference, the break between stimulus and response. Okay, that moment when you see something like a mob, you go, ooh, hater, I'm gonna kill you. You know, what's going on in their brain, okay? And he wrote about this, and he said, against this backdrop, and I want everybody to take this to heart and remember this, because this is how you win on your 3 or 4 issue run, okay? Against this backdrop, one antidote to the debilitating effects of Trump derangement syndrome, requires the reclaiming of the space between stimulus and response, both as a way to change ourselves and as a proactive strategy for influencing situations or events that are yet to come, such as the 2024 election. He's writing that goal that we know. Once again, this recommendation depends on both freedom of will to choose one's way and personal responsibility to commit to meaningful values and goals that only you can actualize and fulfill. It's right out of science, right? Think about how this connects to what we see. Knee-jerk, visceral reactions to Facebook memes and posts. It's sad for those people. Everybody catch what this doctor said? Free will, personal responsibility. Oh, those are conservative factors. That's what we represent. Thought. And we don't have to be afraid of that. We can take strength of that. I found, by the way, that some of this stuff, I shouldn't poke at it, but you could put up certain memes and they will just go berserk. You just step back and go feed your cows. Believe it or not, I was feeding my cows on the sheep this morning before I spiffed up here to look like Dirty John. We can win by using facts, civility, decency, right? Those traditional values that they're rebelling against in their hate of America and hate of anything decent. Because this is demonic, okay, what's happening. You can see it, and we should feel bad for them, pray for them, and not fall into the same pattern. Because the people in the middle, the independent voters, will be drawn to that. They'll be drawn to personal responsibility. Not everybody's in victimhood. So I went to work on this article, and I found this older article from 2023 by a sociologist called How to Understand the Well-Being Gap Between Liberals and Conservatives. I don't know if you know this, but liberals have very high rates of mental illness compared to conservatives. Something I want to say with compassion. We don't even know if it's actually why it may actually be biochemical or that they're born that way. Okay? Literally, this is what this article is about. It is a scientific fact that conservatives tend to be happier and more well-adjusted than liberals, and ideological gaps in well-being have expanded since 2011. What happened in 2011? More social media, more social justice ideology. He goes on to show that social justice ideology actually makes people mentally ill. Okay? Continuing, investigations consistently find that people who identify with liberal ideology are significantly more likely than others to be depressed, anxious, and to rank high on neuroticism. It's, by the way, what's happening to our children in our public schools as well. Homeschool kids are doing better. They're less anxious. They're less likely to be bullied. They're less depressed. Okay? Homeschool your kids if you can. Continuing, liberals are also much more likely than conservatives to be diagnosed with mental illnesses or disorders. These trends hold across genders and across age groups. Though, by the way, all the studies show that the ones who suffer the most, I'm not making this up, are liberal white women. Okay? Maybe, well, just look at it. Look at the blue-haired meanies in our Marine Corps heads. Oh my gosh. Whoa, did I say that? It's possible that genetics and biology could explain much of the observed relationship between liberal identification and mental illness. It's a chicken and egg question. Either becoming liberal makes your brain go screwy, or your brain screwy and makes you become liberal. All right? Now, this isn't true of all liberals. There are a lot of blue dog Democrats coming into it. They just voted for our people. Like Rob Roker pointed out, we want more than anybody in this country. We could build on that, and we build it on issues, local issues. Look at the taxes. Look at how many retirees we have in Vermont. They can't afford living in trailers while they get free lunches and breakfast to millionaires. All right? They're very regressive progressives. They're taxing the poor in the name of saving the poor. All we have to do is, I call it whack-a-mole. All right? Just, you guys that are in there, you're making them stick their heads out and making them vote on things so they can be on the record about the global warming solution. So this guy concludes by saying that social justice liberals engage in a form of reverse cognitive behavioral therapy. So everybody familiar with CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy? It's the most productive means of treating mental illness. Cognitive behavioral therapy encourages people to avoid global labeling and black and white or zero-sum thinking. It pushes people to abstain from hyperbole and catastrophizing or filtering out the good while highlighting the bad. So here we get to our psychology, and I'll wrap it up. Neuroscientists have just been studying the brain. Quote, participants with lower ability to distinguish between correct and incorrect judgments, those with poor metacognitive insight, showed stronger brain activity in response to moral conviction. This was particularly evident in the lateral prefrontal cortex. In practical terms, people who lack insight into the accuracy of their own beliefs may be more likely to treat political issues as moral imperative and less willing to consider alternative viewpoints. This could help explain why low metacognitive ability has been linked to greater dogmatism and political extremism in previous research. So that's why they scream at you for not wearing a mask or for not getting a vaccine that's supposed to be absolutely safe and effective. That's why they scream at you if you have a Mount High or MAGA hat on, because how dare you want to make the children healthy. We have to feel sorry for them, hold our ground, be civil, right? And we're already doing this. This is our political playing field in Vermont. What I did running it, all of you here can do this, we can do this again. And whether or not you're going to run, by the way, don't be afraid to run and lose. Go, just run and have fun and be nice to people. Kiss them ugly babies. All lambs are cute, all cats are cute, and all humans are cute. But also, go to your committee meetings, do these kinds of events, support people, get their signs out. Our candidates need your support. And that's how a revolution and a movement works. And it's all about thinking. That's where the thinking is. It's in the frontal cortex. And so that's what's wrong with John Rogers. If I had more time, and now I feel betrayed. So we'll deal with that another day. But I'd rather almost have the enemy I know than what has just been done. You could have just gone out like Phil Scott and bashed on Donald Trump. You had to praise Liz Cheney and Charity Clark and Mike Wycheck, or I'm not being nice enough. I made a dirty job. I know John Rogers for a long time, and I feel betrayed. I think we have to do something about that, because I didn't run against Phil Scott so I could be a rhino. I ran against Phil Scott because he's a rhino. Because I wanted to be 40 years old. Right? 40 years old. You're here. You're here. You guys rock. Thank you so much for having me. God bless you.
Ludlow, Alderman Kevin Winter.
John, you are a hard act to follow. This afternoon, I'd just like to thank those of you who voted for me. It is truly a pleasure, it's an honor to serve in the Vermont House of Representatives. Recently, I had the privilege of offering the invitation on the House floor, and I'd like to share with you a few of those thoughts, because I'm really not in a position to give advice at this point. We've heard a lot of great advice today. But after 12 weeks of trying to learn the ropes up at Mount Pillier, it's like trying to drink out of a fire hose. But what I did do was I reminded all of us of some old and very familiar insights and goals with the intention of encouraging us to keep up the rigors and the hard fight for fellow Vermonters, families, those who are in real need. I started by reminding the House that there's a marble engraving in the Capitol building in the Abraham Lincoln hallway under the dome, if you've been there. And our founding fathers penned it almost 250 years ago on July 24th, 1777, during the General Assembly. It's included in our Vermont Constitution, and it reads that frequent recurrence to foundational principles, a firm adherence to justice, moderation, temperance, industry, and frugality are absolutely necessary to preserve the blessings of liberty and keep government free. Frankly, I asked the question, can anybody argue with preserving the basic liberties and keeping government free? And nobody raised their hands, fortunately. To attain these virtues, though, we must have wisdom, not just data and science. I'm so tired of hearing the data supports it and the science supports it. We need to have the understanding of how to gather correct data and use it properly. About 1,975 years ago, the Apostle Paul James wrote in James, and I quote, "If anyone lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and will give it to you." James 1:5. Now, as I looked out over the floor, I had to put it this way: whoever your God is, to humbly look for wisdom and insight from above, has got to be the right attitude. Again, 2,460 years ago, a prophet named Isaiah penned the following challenge and a promise: "If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven and forgive their sins and heal their land." Our land needs to be healed. Lastly, 3,000 years ago, Joshua, traditionally believed to be an ancient Jewish warrior, wrote, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." As we strive to make our world a better place, not only to survive, but to thrive, let the rest of our time be enjoyed, because it's not only sustainable, but it's abundant. We need to remember these words. The good news is, as you've heard, we can sustain a veto from our governor. The bad news is, we're still not in the majority. And we need to be in the majority to make the changes that need to be made. So, as we attack what I think are the two main problems, affordability, we cannot afford to continue doing what we're doing the way we're doing it. We don't have enough funding to take care of the needs, much less the wants. And then I think it's safety and security. The drug problems in Vermont are driving our costs, and
safety, as we even heard up north, in the wrong direction. Our correctional facilities, which I happen to be on the institution of corrections, drugs is 70–80% of the issues that we're running into, and the cost is astronomical. And we're not fixing the root cause, we just keep putting Band-Aids on it. We can't keep doing that. We must not let the slow roll that's going on in Montpelier by our Democrat friends continue. We've got to fix the problems, not keep putting Band-Aids on it. So I applaud you for the efforts that you've made to get more conservative, hardworking Republicans into the fight. But we've got to do more. And so I thank you, and I pray that God will continue to bless you and our beautiful state, the United States of America.
Up next, Judy Ternovich, Rockford Ag.
Good afternoon. You have all heard a lot of tremendous speakers and are retaining a lot of knowledge. And as I stand here, probably between you and the bar at this point, I'd like to say that I know that the line can only be retained with a seeking door and we've been sitting here a long time. So, basically, I would like to thank Roy and his wife and Chester GOP for putting this together. I think you should all give yourselves a hand. Silence is agreement, and clearly you are all willing to step out and be the brave Republicans to have our voices heard. To Casey, Terry, Guy, Rob, and John, thanks for covering my speech. Obviously, the cleaning standard is going to be mentioned maybe once or twice. But I would like to reiterate what Casey said about the advanced clean truck car, because I think it's worth repeating that in less than 1 year, January 2026, if Montpelier moves forward, we are not going to be able to buy diesel vehicles and register them in the state of Vermont. I, for one, am not a fan of putting 2,400 gallons of propane on top of an electric vehicle, but I'm not too worried about it because we're being mandated to drive something that doesn't even exist right now. So, but they got 6 months to come up with something first. That should be. I'd also like to give a shout out to both Rob Roper and Guy for both their publications, Behind the Lines and Vermont Daily Chronicle. They are our voice, and it's so important for you to go to those websites and sign on. And I'm a special needs child speaking today because I can't see, I can't hear, and I don't have a good memory, so. Guy has done a tremendous thing for me in making all his articles be, their audio. So I can actually get some work done in the kitchen and listen to Guy's messages, and it's wonderful, and it's a lot easier on me to be able to do it. So thank you very much for that. The one part of the Clean Heat Act I do want to touch on, as crazy a bill as it is, I want you to know that if any of you have purchased these tanks outside of the state of Vermont, if you've got an LLB over in West Lebanon, and you purchased one of these because you're going camping this weekend, you are now culpable to register with the state of Vermont as a fossil fuel dealer. 60 ounces. And if your neighbor doesn't like you and reports you, it's a $10,000 fine. So, people that are not digging deep and really understanding what this Clean Heat Standard and Global Warming Solutions Act is doing to us, it's crippling our city. if you'll indulge me, just a couple more minutes, I am gonna cut everything short because I forgot to start my time. So I, as a propane dealer, have created my own DEI because it's the buzzword, right, in the acronym now. So DEI, my version. Diversity. Our energy future needs to be practical, sustainable, affordable, and resilient. With propane, you'll always get a stored fuel. It is not something that has to come to you through a transmission line, but is energy ready and waiting in your backyard. Equity. Our leaders need to be fair and impartial in their decision-making, knowing that their big ask is not fair for all Vermonters at this time. And finally, inclusion. We need to have all forms of fuel at the table to move forwards and to secure our clean, reliable energy future. Propane and renewable propane have a great story to tell and deserves to be a part of our new energy future. And I want to just touch on that a little bit. Well, we concentrate on what's happening here in Vermont. I am the Vermont State Director for the National Propane Gas Association. I was honored to have Gerald join me in Washington last year, so he knows it's a pretty well-run organization. I sit in these national meetings and I hear about what propane and renewable propane is doing around the world. So while Vermont is trying to tell you that we're a horrible fuel and that it's being run by big oil in Vermont, by the big oil, there's 11 in my company. Around the world, propane is going into third world countries where people are living in mud huts and they're cooking for their families with wood and dung. And we're going in with propane cylinders and giving them a clean way to cook and clear the air in those mud huts for those people. And while Vermont talks about the most vulnerable, I'm here to tell you that all the batteries that we have on these phones, in the cars, and all the electric batteries that we're doing, they're 8 and 9-year-olds mining in the Congo, losing their lives for this phone. I'm just as guilty, I've got the phone, but we can't be so narrow-minded to think that Vermont can be the answer to everything when this needs to be a global call. And our energy, I will tell you that on a parallel track, propane is doing a lot of research. I actually brought in the very first load of renewable propane into New England a couple of years ago. And so not only the renewable propane, but renewable propane with DME, which is dimethyl ether, will bring the propane down below 0 carbon intensity. So we can, in the future, be cleaner than the electric. We just need that parallel path because our electric's not ready either, right? We want everything to go electric. We want the cars, not Tesla, and the homes to be all electric, but our infrastructure is not ready to take that on, especially as we bring AI into the mix. So if we are allotted the time frame, propane can not only be cleaner than the electric that we use here, but it's a drop-in fuel. You are not going to have to retrofit your home $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to be compliant for electric. If you have a propane tank sitting in your backyard, I can bring renewable propane to your backyard, drop it into your existing tank with your existing equipment, and it's not going to cost you any more than what you're doing for propane now. So we go to Montpelier, we talk about this, but unfortunately it falls on deaf ears. I do have some literature up here. I'd love for you to come and take some. There's some business cards there if anybody wants some more information. But all energy at the table for our security. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. If any of those couldn't see what she was holding up, those are the little Coleman gas, the small bottle, they're this tall.
1 pound.
16 ounces.
1
$1,000, yeah, I mean, that's
honey to keep themselves warm.
That's insane. Okay, our last speaker, Mr. Zach Harvey, House of Representatives. Then we'll drop the flags.
Well, good afternoon, and I have the pleasure of rounding out the batting order today. And I can't tell you how good it feels to be in a room with so many like-minded Vermont patriots. It's a far cry from the halls of Montpelier. And for those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Zach Harvey, and I have the honor of representing Castleton in the House of Representatives. I first want to thank Roy and Kelly for pulling together such a fantastic event. It's truly an honor to be with all of you here at Vermont Red, a moment that highlights the importance of electing more Republicans statewide. In fact, being here today reminds me of a story I heard of a Republican politician on the campaign trail. This candidate stopped at a farmhouse in a small town to introduce himself. And when the farmer heard he was a Republican, his jaw dropped open. He shouted, "Hold on right there, I gotta get Bob. She's never met a Republican before." While the farmer rushed off to find Bob, the politician searched around for something sturdy to deliver his speech from. All he could find was, well, a large pile of that stuff Bess Truman spent 35 years trying to get Harry called fertilizer. When the farmer returned with Bob, the candidate stood atop that pile and delivered his speech. Afterwards, the farmer shook his hand and said, "That's the first time I ever heard a Republican give a speech." The candidate replied, "Well, that's the first time I gave a Republican speech from a Democratic platform." Now, that story was first told by one of my favorite presidents, Ronald Reagan. And I don't have to tell you all that the Montpelier Democrats are spreading plenty of fertilizer. But it's time for us to deliver something better, and it's time to return Vermont Red. We're here today because we know that Vermont stands at a critical moment. For far too long, Democrats in Montpelier have talked big, taxed bigger, and delivered far too little. Right now, we have a unique opportunity, and frankly, an obligation, to elect Republicans who believe in common sense, accountability, and putting Vermonters first. Let's start with affordability. Vermonters know what it feels like to open their mailboxes and dread the next tax bill. Democrats in Montpelier continue their push to increase taxes on everything from property to home heating fuel. They continue to ignore the impact it has on working families and small businesses across our state. Vermont Republicans know this. Affordability isn't political, it's personal. Lower taxes don't just make sense economically, they represent respect for hardworking Vermonters who deserve to keep more of their own money. Next, education. Just this week, Democrats passed an education bill that once again puts centralized control in Montpelier ahead of parents in local communities. Instead of empowering parents, supporting local school boards, and prioritizing academic excellence, they've chosen a bureaucracy and top-down control. Republicans understand education belongs to parents and educators, not distant bureaucrats in Montpelier. Vermont Republicans stand for schools that prepare our children for the future, not politics as usual. Moreover, rural Vermonters have been forgotten once again. I heard this phrase recently and it really resonated with me. All of us care about those up in Chittenden County, but I'm left wondering whether Chittenden County cares about all of us. Now consider public safety. Vermont Republicans have always prioritized safe communities because we know public safety is fundamental. Yet Democrats continue pursuing legislation that weakens our police forces, emboldens youthful offenders, and doesn't penalize the drug traffickers poisoning our communities. Vermont Republicans know that strong, supported police departments keep our communities safe, our families protected, and our quality of life secure. And finally, let's discuss housing. One of Vermont's greatest challenges today, families, young adults, and seniors across our state are facing skyrocketing housing costs due to regulatory burdens and permitting delays created by years of Democratic control in Montpelier. Republicans have repeatedly offered practical solutions to streamline permitting, cut unnecessary red tape, and encourage affordable home construction. Yet the Democrats remain committed to failed policies that keep affordable homes out of reach for Vermonters. Vermont Republicans understand that housing isn't about politics. It's about ensuring Vermonters can afford to live, raise families, and retire right here in Green Mountain State. Friends, turning Vermont red isn't merely a political catchphrase. It's the blueprint for our state's future. Now is the time to restore balance, common sense, and accountability in Montpelier. Now is the time to elect Republicans dedicated to affordability, education excellence, public safety, and housing accessibility. In 2026, it is truly all on the line. Together, let's seize this moment. Let's turn Vermont red, not just for today, but for generations of future Vermonters. Thank you very much.